These days, Heather Loudermilk's shift in the kitchen, not the only heavy load she's carrying. After learning her daughter went missing from a treatment facility, juvenile court ordered her to attend 4 hours away from home.
They were responsible for my daughter and for her well-being, and you know, it may not be their fault she ran away, but I kind of feel like the police really dropped the ball on this.
16-year-old Julia disappeared from Quapaw House on September 18th. But when Heather arrived in town to look for her daughter, there was no record of the disappearance with law enforcement.
Hot Springs 911.
But a Quapaw House staff member did make a 911 call that night.
We had a female client here elope. She ran.
Which Heather didn't get to hear until we played it for her.
I'm just angry at everyone. I really am. I don't understand.
I know she's 16.
Dispatcher Taylor Gates, one of 2 on shift that evening, working multiple calls at once.
Okay, well, what's the reasoning behind needing us? We don't have any charges on her from that.
Okay. All right, well, then I'll let my boss know that.
Thank you.
Officers were never sent, a report never made, until Heather reported her daughter missing nearly 48 hours later.
It's law enforcement's obligation to immediately enter that child into the NCIC database and commence an investigation.
And according to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, there is no waiting period to report a missing child, whether an apparent runaway or abduction.
You know, when it comes to a missing child, time is the enemy, so it's imperative that when the child is reported, that investigation begins immediately. The longer that they're missing, the higher likelihood they're going to be victimized.
Hot Springs Police declined repeated requests for an on-camera interview, issuing a written statement that confirmed Heather's account, saying in part, the unintentional neglect of not adequately listening and attempting to perform more than one task simultaneously hindered the department's immediate investigative efforts. Julia somehow made it from Hot Springs back to the area she calls home in northwest Arkansas. According to Julia's mother, she made it here to this Springdale apartment complex where things only got worse.
She was raped. And it's something that can never be taken back. And I think that if the police would have done their job and acted a little quicker, then she probably wouldn't have gone through what she did.
Julia was allegedly dumped nearby in Rogers and made it to a friend's house. Police later discovered her there and took her into custody.
It's my little girl. You know, maybe just another kid to them, but that's my baby.
She was transferred to Arkansas Children's Hospital, where a rape kit confirmed sexual assault.
One of the worst things that a mother fears for their child when they're missing, you know, and it actually happened.
Do you feel like the system failed her?
Yeah, I think they did.
Now, the 911 dispatcher was suspended for one 8-hour workday without pay. That notice was signed on October 8th, the same day we made a Freedom of Information request from the department for those disciplinary records. That's nearly 3 weeks after the 911 call was initially placed. Julia is recovering in juvenile detention center up in Benton County, closer to home. Rogers police won't confirm whether they're investigating the sexual assault.
What a powerful story, and I'm glad you looked into this much further. A lot of questions I'm sure we have, but in terms of the treatment facility itself, Quapaw,
right?
Is that being investigated? Is anything being done to determine how she ran away, or if changes will be made to make sure it doesn't happen again?
Well, DHS did do a licensing investigation once we made them aware of the allegations from Heather. They did discover that 911 call was made, so that followed licensing standards. And while the alarm system was disabled at the center when this occurred,
really?
They're not required to have an alarm system. DHS recommended that they get that fixed, and also the facility did say that they would go through another round of training on how to report a missing child. At this point, we did try to reach out to the Quapaw Center to ask about those missing kids reports that came through, but we haven't heard back from them.
Hey, Marcy, real quickly,
Sure.
Other than, you know, creating awareness for this mom and her daughter for that matter, any legal recourse that she can take?
I think at this point she's weighing her options to see what her rights are, and she is going to seek counsel. But as far as what might be the outcome of that, I think it's a wait and see situation.
Okay.
Breaking news coverage.
And hi, everyone. We're here with breaking news on the campus of ASU in Jonesboro. We are told that there is an active shooter, and I say active shooter, but keep in mind no shots have been fired. But what they're telling us is there is a person with a gun, and as of right now, he is surrounded.
Now I want to show you this video right here. This is taken by Larza Roberts. This looks like, I mean, it's from Jonesboro police and the cars. Just really assessing the situation right now. And like you said, you know, a lot of people are taking to Twitter and posting photos. And this is the photo that we saw earlier. The alleged truck is.
And here is what you're taking a look at. The Jonesboro police chief saying shooter armed with shotgun in the back with 2 propane tanks ready to blow. Again, that coming from the Jonesboro Sun.
Marionberry Parkway, a lot of people know it at University Loop and Johnson Avenue. This is where I've been blocked off to, but there have been multiple law enforcement agencies responding to the scene since I arrived here. I'm going to actually step behind the camera so you guys can take a look at what I've been seeing here.
We spoke with a student on campus who witnessed seeing students running from the student union. So once they got the alert, obviously they were trying to get to a safe location. And looking at this, certainly it scares you, but just for parents and people who have loved ones on that campus, we can't reiterate enough that we have heard that no shots have been fired. Even though this person does have a gun, no shots have been fired.
Jessie Turner, who is a reporter here for the station, tweeting that she spoke with police director Jeff Presley, who told her they have the gunman in custody, and also that the bomb squad has been called into the area to check the truck. The bomb squad has been called in. They do want to check that truck.
We continue to follow breaking news this morning. At least 6 people have died after a charter bus crash in North Little Rock on Interstate 40 traveling westbound. We know several other people were injured. They have been sent to local hospitals. Want to take a live look of what is happening right now. We do have a photographer who is on the scene. As you can see, EMT crews are still there.
Hey, good morning, guys. Yes, it's still a very active scene here, even hours after that crash was first reported. The one thing I think is interesting, we're standing right now outside the First Pentecostal Church here in North Little Rock, where the wreckage of this bus crash is. And as you mentioned, the accident happened when the bus somehow collided with the 167 interchange overpass. So they've somehow managed to move that wreckage up to a considerable point here in front of the First Pentecostal Church here on the westbound lane of I-40. Now,
when tragic news broke out of North Little Rock,
6 people have died.
KARK4 Today was first on the air at 4 a.m. with all of the information.
We've got to get to breaking news. A charter bus crashed on Interstate 40.
First live on the scene.
Here's first pictures of the bus crash.
A very active scene.
Telling the important stories of Arkansans there to help survivors of this heartbreaking accident.
We're working to just take care of their immediate needs. Obviously, people are pretty shaken up.
And now, continuing coverage of the tragic North Little Rock bus accident from KARK.
Now, from the station you count on for local news that matters. This is KARK 4 News at 6.
Good evening and thank you for joining us tonight at 6 o'clock. I'm Bob Clausen. Arkansas State Police and the National Transportation and Safety Board investigating that deadly charter bus crash. We've got team coverage from the crash site tonight, also the towing area in North Little Rock. Hillary Hunt and Jessie Turner covering those vantage points. And standing by, we'll also have in-depth coverage on safety record of the bus company by investigative reporter Marcy Manley. But first, let's go ahead and take a look at what we know so far. We have learned that the bus was traveling from Monroe, Michigan to Laredo, Texas, so it was involved in some sort of a collision here. That crash happened around 1 a.m. in North Little Rock along Interstate 40. 6 people were killed, another 6 injured, with a total of 22 people on board, mostly Spanish-speaking. The Arkansas Red Cross is providing mental health services for survivors, and the bus company is providing hotel rooms for survivors as well. A lot of things happening here. This tragedy rocking the heart of Central Arkansas. KRK4's Hillary Hunt joining us now live from the tow yard in North Little Rock. And Hillary, the bus sits at that yard, and it will no doubt be a center of the investigation.
That's right, Bob. The key piece to this investigation is that bus that stays here at the J. Hook Towing Company. Now, I have been told it is not moving. You can see that garage back there. That's where they were backing in the bus. I want to show you some pictures that I caught on my Twitter. Take a look at some of these pictures. That was just before sun fell today as they were pushing that bus in there. They said the reason they're putting the bus away is to conserve that evidence. They said they do not want any tampering with that evidence. So they said the key is to put that bus away just in case of rain or other factors that could hinder that investigation. Now, I did speak with the owner of the towing company who said that investigation will kick off early tomorrow morning, where they will pull that bus back out and take it apart piece by piece. But take a listen to what some of those drivers said to the 911 dispatcher this morning.
There's a second body.
Where?
Out here on the interstate where all the debris is.
Drivers shocked by the sights of Friday morning's horrific bus crash.
3 people were ejected from the bus. 1 was partially ejected, and 2, the fatalities were still in the bus.
The twisted wreckage from the accident now into North Little Rock Tow Yard as Arkansas State Police and the National Transportation Safety Board comb through the remains.
The bus continued along the barrier until it struck the North Hills overpass.
The deadly bus crash on Interstate 40 happened around 1 a.m. Friday while the bus was traveling westbound in North Little Rock. The accident claiming the lives of 6 and injuring others.
First and foremost, this is a tragedy.
22 migrant workers were on board the 47-passenger bus heading from Monroe, Michigan to Laredo, Texas, before the trip came to a screeching halt. As for what caused the accident, that still remains unknown.
The Arkansas State Police has accident reconstruction specialists. They were on the scene last night. They will investigate the accident according to Arkansas state law, and then any federal violations or equipment problems with the bus will be investigated by the National Transportation Safety Board.
Now, like I said a little bit earlier, that investigation continuing tomorrow morning. The owner of the towing company told me that state police and NTSB will be back on site right here at this towing company to take apart that bus and continue their investigation. Now, I asked state police what could have been a factor to cause such an horrific crash. I asked whether it was maybe drugs or alcohol with the driver, and what they told me is that it appears that alcohol is not a factor, but the driver did freely submit to a test, so things are still going to be coming out about this investigation. They're hoping to find what actually caused this accident. Live in North Little Rock, I'm Hillary Hunt. I'll send it back to you guys.
All right, Hillary, thanks very much. Yeah, we're still very early on in this investigation. Authorities say 19 immigrant workers were on the bus heading to Texas. Red Cross officials say survivors are being taken care of at a Little Rock hotel. We spoke to some of those on board and share now how most of them were asleep when the bus crashed.
I woke up and we got off the bus because everything had already happened. It's bad because these are people I knew.
Passengers say for some it was the first time they were traveling this far for work. Mexican consulate officials are now working to notify families of those involved. Continental Charters is the name that's visible on the bus. You see it right there. But state police confirmed the bus was recently sold to a Florida-based company, despite still operating under the DOT number of its previous owner. KRK4's Marcy Manley working for you, digging into the safety record on the road of this particular company. Marcy, what did you find out as far as the bus goes, the company, and perhaps the driver?
Well, Bob, Vasquez Citrus and Hauling provides foreign migrant workers to growers in Michigan, North Carolina, and California. It employs around 400 people and operates a fleet of 6 vehicles, including 3 buses. It's not rated by the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, but there are some red flags on its safety profile. According to the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, Vasquez Citrus and Hauling has only 2 crashes on its record from the past 3 years. But a slew of vehicle maintenance violations, 20 over 7 vehicle inspections, places it on a heightened safety inspection schedule with the agency. The profile shows 5 driver violations, none of them serious, which included a driver being under 21 years old and 2 violations on our compliance on the road. The biggest red flag that needs clarification at this point is that despite being registered as operating passenger transport, there appears to be no passenger licensing and insurance information on file. That could be a big issue if it turns out the company didn't meet those requirements and was transporting passengers across state lines. And speaking to that last point, if it comes to light that they didn't have that licensing information, that meant that they were operating without authority, and that could be a big problem. Drivers of commercial vehicles like this do have to have commercial passenger driver's licenses. Now, we asked state police if the driver did have that licensure. They confirmed that he had a Michigan state driver's license, but didn't know the details as to whether it was a passenger CDL. Now, we've left messages with the owner of the company, but he has not returned our calls or emails. Bob, back to you.
Deja Taylor is a straight-A student. She's president of her class and on her way to becoming valedictorian. The drive to succeed comes from her grandfather.
When he died, it took a toll on me. Like, I just want to do something good.
But Taylor is ahead of many of her classmates. She attends J.A. Fair, one of 6 schools in the Little Rock district to be declared distressed by the state. Only 40% of students at her school pass end-of-the-year literary exams. At J.A. Fair, 95% of the students are black and 83% are on free or reduced lunch.
Every school that I have attended has been majority black.
In fact, all of the distressed schools in Little Rock are almost entirely black and economically disadvantaged. These schools exist in a city where about half the population is white, and studies have shown the power of integrated schools. A 2011 study published in the National Bureau of Economic Research found black students who went to integrated schools were more likely to attend college and earn a degree. They eventually made more money and were less likely to spend time in jail. Another from 2005 by Columbia University showed the socioeconomic status of classmates is more important than the student's own status when determining educational success.
It's very difficult if you have a school where a significant number of the students are low performing.
Dennis Glasgow has been with the school district for more than 40 years. He says busing programs did increase diversity in Little Rock public schools, but there was a backlash.
We've lost a lot of students who are the easier to educate, the higher performing students, to private schools and charter schools.
Over the last 20 years, the number of white students in the district has been cut nearly in half, while the number of black students has stayed relatively even. And now Glasgow says there's not enough diversity to achieve results the studies show are possible.
And the research shows if we can get about 25% of the kids with the upper reading levels, they begin to pull up the kids who are below them. 60% or more of our African American population are our
Jim Ross is a former Little Rock School Board member who's been involved with education policy in the city for 15 years. He's been pushing for educational reforms aimed at reaching minority students and a redrawing of school zones to achieve greater racial diversity. But he says white parents have a social responsibility to send their kids to diverse schools.
Quit being afraid and go ahead and put that behind us.
The counterpoint to that is true open enrollment.
Gary Newton is with the pro-charter school group Arkansas Learns. He says the answer to a lack of diversity is more choice.
If you have centers of excellence, no matter where they are, whether it's a charter or traditional school, then people want to get to that.
For now, the Little Rock School District appears to be at a crossroads. The state took over earlier this year, a move that prompted 2 lawsuits and the renewing of a legal fight that's been ongoing for 60 years.
Everybody's on the road sheet. I think if schools reflected how the world really is, that would be better, because the world is not majority black.
Learn how to reduce test anxiety.
Deja Taylor recently got a wake-up call when she was chosen to participate in Governor's School, a summer study program with the top students across the state.
And the stuff that we go over in my school, apparently it's not what they go over in their school, and it just made me feel behind.
Taylor says that's driving her to work twice as hard. She's committed to becoming a chemical engineer. But sadly, that feeling of being behind is something many of her classmates do not overcome. In Little Rock, Drew Petrimo, Fox 16 News.
The most highly anticipated criminal trials in recent memory is now underway.
Aaron Lewis, he's accused of kidnapping and killing local real estate agent Beverly Carter.
Well, obviously we have a big battle in front of us.
It's completely overwhelming. The burden of proof is on the prosecution.
Lewis's estranged wife now testifying against her husband.
Well, as we speak, Aaron Lewis is currently being cross-examined.
Aaron Lewis has just been found guilty of 2 charges.
You can never punish someone harshly enough.
Felt this figurative chains falling off that we've just been carrying around since Mom disappeared.
Tonight, justice for a real estate agent, wife, mother, and grandmother whose life ended far too soon. Thanks for joining us tonight at 10. I'm Bob Clausen.
And I'm Ashley Katz. It took a jury just 1 hour tonight to convict Aaron Lewis. He is the man accused of kidnapping then killing Beverly Carter in 2014. Lewis himself was among the last to testify in this trial in his own defense. Now, in the end, the jurors did not believe his story that he played no part in Carter's death.
We have team coverage of this conviction. KARK4's Drew Petrimo anchors our coverage from the Pulaski County Courthouse this evening.
Well, it took jurors only about 1 hour to come back with their verdict. Guilty for capital murder, guilty for kidnapping. Aaron Lewis will spend the rest of his life behind bars. Moments after those verdicts came down, he was taken away to jail. Earlier in the day, he actually took the stand in his own defense, telling his story about what happened, that he met Beverly Carter in some sort of a sexual encounter, but prosecutors getting a chance to hammer home on cross-examination the inconsistencies in his story. Obviously a very emotional day for family members, and after the verdict came down, we were able to catch up with Beverly Carter's son, Carl Jr. Take a listen to what he had to say.
We're lifted in the fact that justice was served.
We've been wearing these chains for 16 months and they just fell off. And I think that my mom's at better peace now, if that makes any sense. It's just, there's so much said about her, lies, and now, you know, we can just continue to spread her wonderful legacy and make it known that she's just a wonderful person.
So obviously a very emotional time for the family member when that verdict came down. Also emotional for the attorneys. I want to bring in reporter Marcy Manley, able to speak with both prosecutors and defense attorneys. Tell me about what you took away from both those interviews.
You know, inside the courtroom, it's all technical. It's very business oriented. You have a jury to convince. Once they walked out, though, they had that verdict. They knew what the decision was. And for prosecutors, it was almost a sense of relief. They are there to represent Beverly Carter, who is the victim in this case. She couldn't represent herself, and they spoke of justice for her and her family, because the family is the one that they had to be close to. The family is the one that they had to coordinate with. So it was emotional. On the flip side of that, Bill James, as the defense attorney, got brought in rather late, and so he kind of dealt with the hand he was dealt in this case. He put up a good defense, he said. He felt like it was a fair defense and that they touched on all the points that they needed to, but ultimately he lost. I mean, when you come down with a guilty verdict, and that's never easy for a defense attorney, but maybe it's easier for them to say it in their own words.
I feel like we had a fair trial. I mean, he got his defenses put out there. I think we got just about everything out we could, and did the best we could to get it. And the jury rejected his story. So there we are. I mean, that's the way the system works.
But do you think the jury got the right verdict?
Well, I mean, that's, you know, that they heard the evidence, and I mean, I respect it. There was certainly enough there for them to find him guilty. So I mean, I don't question it, and we respect it.
You can never punish someone harshly enough. Death penalty, life in prison without parole, never evens the score. For Beverly or for any of the other victims that unfortunately we have to advocate for.
I want to bring in our legal analyst, Chanley Painter. She was in there in the courtroom with me the entire time listening to testimony. Obviously, we just heard from attorneys there. It's a difficult time for the defense attorneys. Obviously did not get the verdict that they wanted. What would you say, in your estimation, went wrong for the defense in this case?
Well, they didn't find the defendant's story credible. This jury was able to personally see Aaron Lewis explain his version of events today in court, and the prosecution on cross-examination tripped him up a couple of times and made him look defensive and argumentative, and that didn't help his case.
So the jury only deliberating for about an hour. What do you make of the speed of the decision? What does that say about what went on in that deliberation room and what jurors thought about the evidence?
It means that it didn't take them long to deliberate or come to a consensus. They probably left the courtroom this afternoon with guilty in every one of their minds, and so it didn't take them long to come back and say, We all agree, Judge.
Yeah, and that had to be something that was unanimous, unanimous for capital murder, unanimous for kidnapping. Question now, what's next? We already are hearing that there, some of the defense attorney motions kind of laid the foundation for an appeal. Is that something that you envision coming, and how will that play out?
Absolutely. Aaron Lewis has to file certain documents within 30 days of the filing of the conviction of this guilty plea today, and he will likely do that. Bill James indicated that he would. And this matter could be held up in the courts for many years from now. 10, 20 years from now, he'll probably be appealing what happened today.
You got anything to say, Aaron?
You just had a really bad day, didn't you?
And that video you saw right there, Aaron Lewis being taken from the courthouse to the jail. Reporter Josh Berry joins us now. You were out there as he was taken away. What's the atmosphere like out there?
And you could hear it, the people even chiming in that weren't involved or weren't in the media. There was a large presence of people out there wanting to get what could possibly be a final look at Aaron Lewis as he's being loaded off to jail. We did get a chance to try and ask him a question if he had anything to say, and he remained silent the only time. The only thing that he did do, Drew, and what a lot of us noticed out there, was he gave a peace sign as the door was closing in that patrol car. But again, you know, safety was a concern for the sheriff's office out there. That's why, for the first time in this trial, they actually pushed everybody back, because everybody was trying to get a final look at Aaron Lewis.
Aaron Lewis being taken away, closure for the family, and really that wraps up our coverage from this Aaron Lewis murder trial. For Josh Berry and Marcy Manley, Chanley Painter, I'm Drew Petrimo at the Pulaski County Courthouse, and we'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
Drew, thanks very much. Now, much of the prosecution's case hinged on the second person involved in Beverly Carter's death, Aaron Lewis's estranged wife, Crystal Lowry. Last year, Lowry took a plea deal, receiving a 30-year prison sentence. In exchange, she agreed to testify against Lewis. On the stand Thursday, Lowry explained to the judge and the jury that the plot to kidnap Beverly Carter and hold her for ransom, then explained how that fell through and how the pair killed her.
Today's verdict brings to a close more than 15 months of anguish for Beverly Carter's family. She disappeared while showing a home in Scott, southwest of Little Rock, September 25, 2014. Aaron Lewis was arrested 4 days later. The day after that, investigators found Beverly Carter's body in a shallow grave located in Cabot. A lot going on here, and you can find our full coverage of this trial by going to our website, arkansasmatters.com. After the verdict, Carl Carter Jr. tweeting this picture of the Pulaski County Courthouse saying, quote, "I hope I never have to come here again. Rest in so much peace, Mama. Hashtag justice for Beverly."
Beverly Carter left behind 2 children, 5 grandchildren, and as many have described, countless friends.
She was a real estate agent working at Cry-Like Realtors in North Little Rock. Family members say her favorite color, pink. And as you've seen throughout the trial, family members have wore pink, and they've worked items of clothing into her memory. She was also an avid runner, and the local running community continues to honor her. In light of her death, new laws have also been passed aimed at increasing safety for real estate agents here in Arkansas.
Tonight, we remember Beverly Carter.
Little Rock family says never before seen video brings up new questions in the death of their father, killed 4.5 years ago in a police shooting. 67-year-old Eugene Ellison was shot and killed in his apartment in December 2010. We have never heard from the officers involved in this, but only on KRK, reporter Marcy Manley has obtained never before seen video depositions they gave in a lawsuit. It's testimony Ellison's sons say proves their father didn't have to die.
Each time I come home, my stomach hurts.
The last 4.5 years have been a long road for Spencer Ellison.
It's been a holy nightmare. I wouldn't wish this on anyone. You know, it's been almost 5 years, and we're still trying to seek justice in this case.
That nightmare began December 9th, 2010, when 2 off-duty police officers working security at Big Country Chateau shot and killed his father.
His door was open. He died because his door was open.
Officer Donna Lesher and Detective Tabitha McCrillis noticed 67-year-old Eugene Ellison's open door. They claim they told him they were police, but can't be sure he heard.
Because you might not know the resident's identity, you have the right to walk in his home.
If the door is standing wide open and it appears that there may be something going on inside that residence, then yes.
The Navy vet, who had lived in the complex for 13 years, responded he was okay. He was alone and told them to leave.
And you said that the reason that you walked in was because he was mouthy with you, right?
That was part of it.
McCrillis and Lesher both stepped inside and say Ellison charged them. But McCrillis,
I pushed him away because I didn't want him to grab me.
made the first physical contact.
But you didn't know that he was going to grab you when you pushed him.
I thought that he was. He was coming towards me in a quick pace.
He was also coming near the door, though, correct?
What happened next isn't under dispute. A struggle ensued. Lesher and McCrillis suffered bruises, abrasions, and a chokehold at Ellison's hands.
Throughout the struggle, Mr. Ellison was repeatedly yelling at both of you to get out of his apartment, wasn't he?
Yes.
You think that if you had left his apartment that Mr. Ellison would have chased you down the walkway?
Yes.
Why do you believe that?
Because he never stopped coming. I mean, he just never stopped.
Ellison was elbowed in the groin, hit with a baton, and bitten on the arm. At some point, both officers said they used pepper spray, but the coroner said no evidence of pepper spray was found on Ellison.
He suffered the whole time.
The officers' radios were off during the struggle, but eventually, McCrillis managed to call for backup. 2 officers arrived moments later to find Lesher inside the doorway, McCrillis outside, and Ellison inside his apartment.
I'm going to tell you one time, get on the ground. He was in an aggressive stance. You can tell he was fighting.
Ellison refused, and one of the officers pulled Lesher out of the apartment.
All 4 of you could have walked away. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
At this point, no fighting was occurring, but Ellison walked over. Only 2 of them ever claimed to see it in his hands, and their accounts of what he did with it conflict.
So he wasn't swinging it at all. Is that true?
Not that I know of. I don't know.
Audio recordings never capture Lesher alerting Ellison she was armed or planning to shoot. And Lesher, standing outside the apartment, fires twice inside while instructing him to drop the cane.
She had every opportunity to reevaluate the situation before engaging into taking deadly force.
Ellison's sons believe officers had options aside from killing him.
In the second before you shot Mr. Ellison, you could have walked away, correct?
Yes.
Couldn't you have left in the middle of the fight?
We could have.
Why didn't you?
Because that's not, I'm not going to just give up.
Sitting here today thinking about those actions, is that different than making the decisions right then?
Yes.
At least one of the backup officers who wasn't there for the struggle claimed he didn't feel threatened by Ellison while on scene.
At that point, no, I did not fear him.
You did not have a fear of deadly force from Mr. Ellison when you got there, did you?
Yeah.
No, I did not.
This is different. Every time I come out here, for me, I really wanted my son to meet him. He didn't have to be shot and killed that night. He didn't deserve to die. And I'm going to stand behind that, and as long as I'm living, I'm going to fight this.
Spencer Ellison knows no matter what happens with the case,
we're divorced by our father. I carry his last name.
His journey will eventually end here, him sharing the news with a tombstone that carries his name as well. The Little Rock City attorney agreed to an interview late this afternoon, past the point where we could include it, but he responded by saying in part,
we can't judge these situations with the comfort of 20/20 hindsight. You know, we're in a room after having had a discussion this morning. This was a rapidly evolving and very tense situation, and the officers had to react as they dealt with it. And that's the problem that officers face.
Tom Carpenter's full interview, along with extended cuts from the officers' depositions and the entire interview with Spencer Ellison, can all be found on our website, arkansasmatters.com.
1 year ago today, an EF4 tornado tore across 41 miles of central Arkansas.
We have confirmed reports of a tornado still on the ground 2 miles northeast of Valonia.
Looks like the damage path is going to be at least an eighth, maybe a quarter-mile wide so far.
The deadliest tornado to hit Arkansas in almost 50 years. 16 people killed, almost 200 injured.
This neighborhood has been completely destroyed. I'm told there was about 50 homes in here.
More than 400 homes were damaged or destroyed. Tonight, we take a moment to remember the lives lost and to honor the strength of our neighbors and our friends.
Today marks 1 year since the April 27 tornado touched down in Faulkner, Pulaski, and White counties. It was rated as an EF4 tornado.
and remained on the ground from 7:06 to 8:06 p.m.
The storm killed 16 people. It was the deadliest tornado to hit Arkansas since May 1968, when a tornado hit then. On 4/27, almost 200 people were injured and more than 400 homes were damaged or destroyed during that tornado.
Through our coverage, we discovered stories about the unfortunate victims and the impact they left on everyone they knew.
And one of those stories grabbed the attention of the entire world. A final goodbye sent as the tornado carved its path. Fox 16's Josh Berry shared that story with us last year, and he went back to Valonia today.
It's 1 year, but feels like yesterday.
From their new home in Valonia, Tim Hunter and his wife Vicki tell us how they huddled with Jeffrey Hunter in their bathroom April 27th of last year.
They were inside the tub and I was just on the side of it, and we all just held on.
The house came down around them as the EF4 tornado tore through their neighborhood, eventually ripping each one of them away from each other. Jeffrey was one of 16 killed, but it was what he did moments before that lives on today.
He had the courage in the face of a tornado in that size to do that was pretty amazing.
20 miles away and out of harm's way, Jeffrey's mother Regina received a series of texts. We first met her several days after the tornado.
I kept saying, "Are you okay? Are you okay? Let me know."
The message, "Goodbye, Mama. It's heading right for me."
That's a memory I will have the rest of my life.
Jeffrey had the wherewithal to message not only his mom, but other loved ones not there with him at the time, a final goodbye.
That was his priority.
His sisters and rest of his family filled with pride with how he's remembered now.
And he will not be forgotten, and neither will the rest of the people that lost their lives that day.
And of course, it is important to point out, Jeffrey did message his mother that day, and that's what caught the attention of the entire world. But he messaged several family members and even Facebooked alerts warning others about that tornado. His family told me that today that's just who he was. You will be able to hear more of that conversation as they share Jeffrey's impact on the world and stories, of course, of other victims from the tornado on our website.
This is live video near Malvern. This is the powerful storm coming on through. We're talking about torrential downpours and hail. This is a dangerous storm to drive through. You don't want to be caught on the interstate as this storm moves on through. You really don't want to be caught outside at all. This could produce some very strong wind gusts in excess of 70 miles per hour. And keep in mind, the ground is very, very saturated. So we could be talking about large trees becoming uprooted. Those trees could fall on homes. Those trees could fall on streets. They could fall in a car as it's driving by. So you want to be inside and away from windows as the storm moves on through. And if you're in a house that has large trees nearby, you may want to get more towards the interior of your home just in case one of those storms moves on through. Look at the large hail coming on down. Those aren't just water droplets that you see, but that's actually hail hitting the ground. And it looks like those hailstones look to be about quarter size or so. Again, this is one of our storm spotters.
Ping pong ball size hail in Malvern right now. It's about 1.5 inches in diameter according to some of the storm spotters on the National Weather Service chat. So.
Yeah, ping pong ball size hail. That's large enough that it can actually crack windshields, maybe even damage some screen doors. So this is some very serious hail moving on through with this storm. And again, this storm is very close to the Malvern area, and it's going to be moving towards Saline County. So those of you in the path of this storm, we're talking about Traskwood, Haskell, as well as the Benton and Bryant area and Bauxite. Be prepared. We are talking about a very severe storm heading up I-30 towards you. Keith?
All right, let's take a look again at that tornado warning that is in effect for parts of Montgomery and Garland County. I just want to give folks this update because some areas have been cleared. You folks in Mount Ida, you are no longer in the tornado warning. That tornado warning now in effect from in and around the Silver area and points off to the northeast.
Snow falling across central Arkansas as another band of winter weather pushes into the natural state. Good afternoon, and thanks for choosing Arkansas Today on this Wednesday afternoon. I'm Mallory Brooks.
And I am Aaron Nolan. Right now, a lot of winter weather happening all across the natural state, and we're bringing you team coverage from
all corners of the natural state as the southern part of Arkansas getting the most snow right now.
Several inches in parts of the state. We want to take a look at the west right now. Snow, sleet, and ice pellets. That's where the winter weather mix is in Arkadelphia today. That system starting to pile up on the city now for about 5 hours.
Yeah, Arkansas Today Shannon Miller saw this storm progress. She was there from the beginning. She joins us now live. Shannon, can you tell us exactly what's going on there and how much are you seeing and what kind of damage is it doing to road conditions?
Well, we've seen several inches of snow pile up in the course of the last few hours. This started as a sleet mixture, and as you can see here on the roadways, has piled up and created quite the accumulation here of snow on the side of the roadways here and all across Arkadelphia. Now, what I want to show you the concern is are down trees like this one here that Energy is concerned about, because last week there was that ice system that tore down these trees.
And, you know, traffic right now moving pretty smooth. You can see some little patches. A lot of these 18-wheelers are out and about right now. Not really so much a lot of the smaller cars. So if you are out on the road, do be careful, do be mindful as well. As you know, I-30 really one of the more traversed roads in the country, not just this region, but a lot of commerce comes through here. Obviously with Nashville, Memphis, traveling to Dallas, obviously Little Rock involved with that as well.
Welcome back, everyone. Tonight we're live in our parking garage that's connected to our building because we want to point out a problem that's happening around the country and definitely right here in Arkansas.
Yeah, and the problem we're talking specifically about has to do with these. Booker, our photographer, is going to zoom in. We're talking about handicapped parking spots, Donna.
Yeah, oftentimes drivers will pull into these parking spaces without a handicap placard or license plate. And too many times they get away with it.
But that's about to change. In fact, Fox 16 Shannon Miller driving up as we speak to explain how law enforcement is stepping up patrols to target violators and the fines that come with it. Shannon, what'd you find out?
Well, Kevin, a lot of times when these drivers pull into these spots, they think I'll just be here for a few minutes. Not a big deal. But for those who are approved to use the spots, they say taking them up can totally change their day.
Yeah, we're doing all right. We're just about 2 hours away from our last stop. The Huckabee campaign is here right now in Cedar Rapids. I'm going to step out of the way and let you guys get a look. The governor is here right now talking to folks at the Pizza Ranch here in Cedar Rapids. He is holding the third and last of his Factories, Farms, and Freedom rally here in Iowa. This one's a meet and greet. You got an inside look at what's happening right now live. This is Huckabee's second stop of the day, though. He got an early start this morning, meeting with folks in Sioux City where he talked policy. He's pushed his plans for strengthening Social Security, saying he'd rather Congress cut their pensions than tinkering with what he calls promises made to seniors. Also, once again this morning, Huckabee's political background did play a key role in talking to potential voters here in Iowa. He talked about his experience as governor, talking about the wisdom and knowledge that he's gained in his political experience, fighting through certain political climates. Now, we have seen supporters here. The room is packed. I can tell you that there are supporters from all over the country here, even back home in Arkansas. We've seen the banners on the cars, the signs, the window paint. Folks here just to see Governor Huckabee and showing him support in his campaign. They're selling pins as well. Check this out. Super Huck is what they're selling at the door as people walk into the Pizza Ranch here in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. We're going to continue following along with him. We're going to try and talk to him here after he gets done with his event. He's going to be here for about an hour and a half. We're told he's going to talk to probably every single person in this room, hitting this campaign trail hard. We are live in Iowa. Josh Berry for Arkansas Today.
Set, hut.
Do you remember that video everybody's been looking at?
Mm-hmm.
Why were you crying?
Because the Hawks were losing. I don't want to go to the football game.
Razorback fans, there's something for some pizza. Get on your van for everybody's not.
Do you like Texas A&M? Huh?
Carson's going to roll it in there. Touchdown.
Do you like Texas Tech? Oh, no.
Touchdown. The option pass works for a 72-yard score.
I don't like jumping.
So you know what I did? I I called a couple of my buddies in the NFL, like I told you, and they all made you a video. You know why?
Why?
Because they saw you crying, and they said that's not going to work.
Hey, how's it going? I'm Marshall Spade. I used to play for the Arkansas Razorbacks last year, and I'm in the NFL playing for the Washington Redskins.
What's up, little man? Trey Flowers, former Hog, current New England Patriot.
Booth, what's up, buddy? This is Zach Harker with the Saints.
What's going on, big fella? It's Chris Gregg, former Razorback tight end, current Buffalo Bills tight end.
What's going on, Razorback Nation? This is Niall Davis.
Dude, I was on the team with the Razorbacks a couple years ago. We weren't winning a lot.
I came across a video of a young kid named Booth who was real disappointed in the Razorbacks losing.
And guess what? The next home game that you go to, we're going to win. And you know why? It's because you're there cheering us on.
And as soon as we found out that the fans had our back, man, they kept supporting us. We started winning left and right. So
all you got to do is continue to cheer for them, cheer a little louder. They're going to get some wins. It's like
we're going to win a football game just for you. So keep your smile on your face and keep cheering on the Hogs.
But if it's one thing I know about those Hogs, we can come back from anything.
It's going to be okay. Just like in our fight song, it says, never yield. We're never going to yield.
So keep your head up and keep your faith in us and go Hogs.
Woo Pig Suey for life.
It's like, you know, that story back in my day, the little engine that could. He had to climb this big old mountain and he cheered himself on it. He said, I think I can, I think I can. And I know you can, little man. All you got to do is chill a little louder and they're going to get some wins for you. Woo Pig Suey.
What do you think about that? Are they being nice to you? I saw it.
I changed my mind.
You changed your mind.
Ready?
Yep.
Steady?
Good job.
Hit that line, keep on going. Move that ball right down the field. Give it a cheer. Never fear. Arkansas will never yield. On your toes, raise your backs to the finish. Carry on with all your might. Forte again. SAS for Arkansas. Fight, fight, fight. Look at you. Do you know it the whole time when you were messing with me?
You're like the Jesus of Arkansas. Hashtag Woo Pig Suey.
You could call it a case of mistaken identity.
People will just add me thinking that I'm him just because we have the same name.
Meet emergency medicine doctor Hunter Henry, or as people know him on Facebook, Hunter Henry.
Way to go, big hog. Heart of a champion. Will you sign my football? I'll comment back on people and say, you know, hey, you got the wrong person. But it's gotten to the point where I have to comment a lot more. I've been asked to do like 5K sponsorships and come and meet children at the hospital.
But as you can clearly see, Dr. Henry stands about 5'10" and puts on a white coat instead of a jersey. Not to be confused with the big-time Arkansas playmaker, number 84, Hunter Henry.
It happens every day. Patients, families, well, Hunter Henry, we thought you'd be a little taller, or aren't you supposed to be up in Fayetteville?
Now, right about now, you're probably wondering if Dr. Hunter Henry has any of the same football skills as Hunter Henry. So I decided to bring him on the field and put him to the test. Dr. Henry may not quite be up to Coach Bielema's football standards, but there are some similarities between the game changer and the lifesaver.
He's probably very good at thinking on his feet and adjusting to different plays, different defenses. I like to kind of think that in emergency medicine, I also have to be pretty quick on my feet.
And good with his hands, something both Hunter Henrys have in common.
Good stuff, Bob. Thank you. And finally, I've got one more thought. I'm not ready to begin the Alex Collins for Heisman Trophy campaign, but I do think he's going to have a big year. I know some people were a little surprised when I predicted last night Collins would rush for 1,500 yards this season. It really comes down to simple math. So hang with me for a little bit. We're going to do a little math. We'll go to the smart board. Kevin, Donna, pretend like you're watching me and paying attention. Thank you. All right, last season, Jonathan Williams had 200 carries. Alex Collins is going to get about 80 of those carries. The rest, they'll divide up between Cody Walker, Raleigh Williams III, and others. Now, over a 13-game season, 80 carries is only 6 more carries a game. Collins carried the ball 15.5 times a game last season, so add 6 more carries in there. 21 carries a game isn't outrageous. Last season, Collins rushed for 1,100 yards, or about 5.4 yards per carry, so here we do the math again. 80 extra carries times that 5.4 yards per carry equals about 432 more yards. Add that to the 1,100 he had last year, and you can see why I say I think it's easy he could rush for 1,500 yards or more. Ironically, that's what Nick Chubb rushed for last season. The same Nick Chubb has the 4th best odds to win the Heisman, according to one of the Las Vegas sports books. And oh, by the way, Alex Collins has gone from not being on that list to 33-1 odds in just the last few days. It appears Vegas is paying attention. So am I. It's just one more thought.
Live from Arkansas's breaking news leader, Fox 16 News at 9 starts now.
Breaking news just into the Fox 16 studio. Little Rock police say they are responding to a shooting in the downtown area. It happened within the hour in the 1800 block of West 15th Street. The victim, we're told, is in serious condition. No suspect information, though, at the time, but we will keep you updated as information becomes available to us within this hour.
It was hard to believe a 2-year-old shooting himself with a handgun.
In less than a week, 3 shootings, 3 victims.
Just saw the baby was full of blood. His clothes and stuff was full of blood.
All young children, all dead, all of them preventable. Tonight and only on Fox 16 News, a closer look at innocent lives lost.
No parent or relative or anyone wants to experience something like this.
What can be done to save lives and to protect those we love?
And tonight we're dedicating much of this hour to what appears to be a devastating pattern in central Arkansas. Children dying way too soon, caught in the line of accidental gunfire. Good evening, everyone. I'm Donna Terrell.
And I'm Kevin Kelly, coming to you live from the Little Rock Police Station, where investigators both here and in Benton are searching for answers after 2 accidental shootings resulted in 2 young individuals being shot and killed. I'll bring you up to speed on the latest shooting involving a 6-year-old boy, Donna, that happened just last night.
All right, Kevin, and we do have team coverage for you tonight. In addition to Kevin being live at the Little Rock Police Department, Jesse Tenor is in Benton trying to get information on that deadly shooting of a 2-year-old. And Marcy Manley is here in the studio with us, live on Periscope, Facebook, and Twitter, answering your questions. Just be sure you use the hashtag accidental shootings. But first, we begin with my co-anchor, Kevin Kelly. He's live at police headquarters with the latest on last night's shooting involving that 6-year-old boy. And today, Kevin, we're told the little boy's aunt was in court. She's been charged with manslaughter.
Yeah, Kenya Brevard, however, Donna, is out of jail this evening. She posted bond after pleading not guilty to that manslaughter charge you mentioned about, as well as to being a felon in possession of a firearm. Now, tonight, police are calling it an accidental shooting, but the investigation is far from over. Needless to say, 24 hours later, there's still a lot of questions that need answers. And as Fox 16's Hillary Hunt reports, both the aunt, family, and friends are in a state of shock and mourning about a death that could have easily been prevented.
You, the adult, could be held responsible if somebody gets that weapon. And
somber faces could be seen walking out of the Pulaski County Detention Center as the family of this 6-year-old boy posted bond for Kenya Brevard.
You still can catch a criminal charge, and this isn't done out of punishment or retribution. It's done just because we want to make sure that we do the right thing as police officers. And
the 38-year-old pled not guilty to manslaughter charges Thursday morning. Brevard spent less than 24 hours in a cell following what Little Rock police say was an accidental shooting death of her nephew Wednesday.
A 6-year-old child, it doesn't take a lot of strength to pull the trigger on a.
This was the scene around 4:30 after the young boy accidentally shot himself, later dying from his injuries at Arkansas Children's Hospital. Little Rock police say this is a tragic reminder to always make sure your guns are locked up or in a safe place.
One time is too many. No parent or relative or anyone wants to experience something like this. So.
As you just heard, I mean, and it's worth reiterating, Donna, one life is too many, especially when we're talking about kids and guns. As for Brevard, she is expected to be back in court January and could face between 3 to 10 years if she's found guilty on these charges.
New details since we first told you about a Benton 2-year-old shot and killed this week. According to a police report, the little boy's life put on the line only 3 weeks earlier when he was found wandering a busy street in only a diaper and a jacket. Fox 16's Jessie Tenure has tracked this story from the very beginning. She joins us live now from where the driver actually found the 2-year-old 3 weeks ago. Jessie?
Donna, the 2-year-old boy was able to walk from his home here on Nelson Circle all the way down to Edison Avenue, which is a pretty busy road in Benton. His total trip, only about 530 feet. Thankfully, a driver spotted him and pulled him to safety. Police responded to the scene here and cited his mother. Drivers frequent Edison Avenue throughout the day in Benton. Right up the street lived a very curious 2-year-old.
He'd pity-pat down here, Grandma, Grandma, and he'd go that way.
But great-grandma was always there to stop him.
When he acted like he was going to follow too far, Grandma, here I'd come.
Except for one day, October 26th.
For 2 years old, that little fella was smart.
When the little boy opened his front door by himself and made it from Nelson Circle to busy Edison Avenue in just a diaper and jacket. A driver spotted him, picked him up, and called police.
Mother never went and got him. I went and got him clear over to that railroad track down there. She would be knocked out like this on the bed. That's what made me think she was sick.
3 weeks later, police back in the area because family says the same little boy accidentally shot and killed himself with a .45 pistol.
That's what makes me feel like she must have been sick because it happened in the trailer.
Linda Ashley and Benton police are trying to figure out how the 2-year-old could have gotten his hands on such a lethal weapon. Ashley hopes the parents knew better.
I want to whop them both across the bottom if there was a gun anywhere that should have been put up and empty.
She can't let herself think of that too much.
I'm going to miss him terribly.
Instead, she tries to remember the good.
When I had flowers blooming, he'd come over and pick one, bring to me. And he was the sweetest little fella.
And look forward to seeing her little fella, her good little boy, again someday.
It's just one of the things we got to face. I keep telling them how good heaven's got to be.
And in regards to the little boy walking right here on Edison Avenue, the police report states his mother told officers she and her son laid down for a nap, and she didn't realize he left the house, Donna.
My goodness, Jessie. I mean, who knew all of this was in the background? I'm wondering, though, about this most recent case, the shooting. Any new developments in that investigation?
Donna, I've been in contact with police all day trying to see if there was anything new to add to tonight's report. So far, no arrests, no new developments yet, Donna.
Okay, and of course, this is a case we'll keep following. Jessie, thanks a lot for that. Now, according to the Arkansas chapter of Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense, the last 7 days are tied to one of the worst unintentional shootings weeks we've had. Nationally, there have been 10 unintentional child shootings this week. Of those, 6 resulted in deaths, and 3 of those were right here in Arkansas. That's this week alone. So coming up, Marcy Manley and Lieutenant Steve McClanahan with the Little Rock Police Department will be in our newscast. They're on Facebook and Twitter. And so listen up. We do want to hear from you. We want to hear what you think needs to be done to keep you
and your family safe. And we also want to hear your questions. On social media, just use the hashtag accidental shootings. And we want this conversation to be about solutions and how we can save lives.